See, it looks like things are starting to work. We'll see if YouTube gets going here. But either way, welcome to this week's live Monday Music Motivation. This is a fun one. I always think they're fun, but this one is about this creative process that I learned about in a book that I've been reading recently. It's a really interesting idea, and it applies to really all creative processes, but it's this application to clarinet that we're interested in, or just music in general. I think it applies for any instrument and any musician. The book that I'm reading that I heard about this in is Rest, and the subtitle is Why You Get More Done When You Work Less by Alex Sujung Kim Peng. And it's a really interesting idea. The book is great. This idea is an idea of Graham Wallas. Yeah, Graham Wallas. And he had this idea and sort of invented this formal creative process. Sometimes it's called the classic creative process. And it's a 4-step process that involves preparation, incubation, illumination, and then verification is the sort of original process. Some people have expanded on this over time. Sometimes there's a 5-step process with concentration as a second step. I think Graham Wallas would probably include concentration in the sort of preparation stage, but it is interesting to sort of flesh that out as its own idea. There's also have been elaborations of verification gets split into two things of evaluation and then expanding on it. So that's the 4-step process, though. I'm going to sort of keep it to the classic, simpler 4-step process. I might do a longer, more in-depth Saturday video on this, but I think this is a good thing to just sort of get the ball rolling and get you thinking about your creative process going into this week as a good Monday music motivation. So let me explain what those 4 steps actually mean. So preparation is actually getting into the problem. So when it comes to clarinet playing, that could be something like, I don't sound the way that I want, so I'm going to do some long tones and focus on my embouchure and see if I can improve that. And even the practicing of that, all of that is in the sort of preparation phase. It's really interesting, and this is part of the idea of the Rest book, is how much of our creativity and creative process happens sort of subconsciously or unconsciously or not in the actual practicing, but the sort of reflecting on and the sort of ruminating on, the letting things brew in our brains outside of practicing, actually, and in this resting time. And that's kind of the big premise of the Rest book. But we can see that in the creative process, because preparation is the doing of the work and the tackling of the problem. And then it goes into incubation. And incubation is sort of that outside of the practice where we're sort of stewing on the idea and it's ruminating there. We aren't necessarily, or really aren't actually consciously thinking about it at all. It's just sort of bubbling back there and simmering and your brain's figuring some stuff out. Then we get illumination, and that's the sort of aha moment. There's lots of examples, and again, this is coming from the Rest book, of artists and geniuses like the Thomas Edisons, Benjamin Franklin, Dolly, all of these great people and historical figures who would use sleep as a way to get ideas. And that's what the illumination can often happen is after a nap or after a sleep or a shower thought. Those are examples of it too, where you're sort of doing something else and then the light bulb moment happens, something pops up and you solve the problem. That rumination that your subconscious has been doing, it comes up with a potential solution. We don't know for sure yet if it is a solution, but an idea pops up. So when we apply that to clarinet playing, say we're tackling that embouchure problem that I mentioned, something pops up and you're like, oh, maybe I need to push the clarinet up a little bit more, anchor it into the top teeth a little bit more. so I can open the jaw and let the reed vibrate a little bit more. Like some idea like that will pop into your head. And then the last step is verification, where you verify if that is a solution or not. So next time you go to practice, you try anchoring up into the top teeth more, opening up a little bit more, letting the reed vibrate more. And a lot of times when it's come through this illumination process and the answer just pops in your head, a lot of times it is the right answer. It may not be, and then you just sort of go back and keep working. And that's an important part of this creative process, is it's not so linear as it seems. It's not like, okay, I did 30 minutes of working on my embouchure. Now I'm going to sit and take a nap, and then the light bulb will go off, and then I have the solution. It doesn't work that way, but it's something that's kind of iterative and is always happening, where you're tackling a problem in your practice that's sort of prepping the brain and putting the information in the brain, like, this is something I want to be working on, this is something I want to be getting better at. Then away from the instrument, or when we're practicing other things, it's sort of incubating, and then eventually we'll have that illumination. And sometimes the illumination isn't even a conscious thing where we're like, oh, that's what I should try to do. Sometimes it's just something that we feel a little bit different, and the next time we go to practice, it's better. The more conscious you can make it, the more you'll be able to stick with it and grab onto it so that you can implement it in the future and keep it consistently. But that is how the process works. So what I want you to do for this week for your motivation is I want you to think about that classic creative process and ask yourself, what problems can you be preparing for the brain to tackle? What problems do you want to be prepping for incubation and illumination in the future? And then actually do it and take some time away from the instrument and sort of be aware of how your brain may be subconsciously sort of chewing on that information. So that's the mission for the week, your motivation, what I want you to do. And then of course, we're going to fill out our template. So you can go to the link in the description to get this template, or you can create it for yourself. This is what it looks like. It's very simple. It's just the date for the week, the reflection of how things went for you last week, your goal for what you want to accomplish this week, and then your plan for when you're going to do it and what you're going to do when. And in that plan, it's really important to then take it off of this page and then put it in your planner, your calendar, set reminders on your phone, whatever you need to do to make sure that you actually implement it. As always, I will say too, like, the reflection and the goals don't have to be super sophisticated. It doesn't have to be a goal of master this, fix this with my embouchure, be able to tongue at this speed, learn this piece. You only have 1 week, and I think we sometimes will overestimate what we can do in just 1 week. But if we keep making really good, solid progress each week, we have one really tangible thing that we accomplish for the week that will build up over time and get us really great results in a year or a couple of years if we're always going for little goals, rather than thinking, I need to accomplish 10 goals and then getting burned out. Maybe I'll talk about that further in another Monday Music Motivation. But for this week, give that creative process a try. Know that your brain is always chewing on those problems. All you need to be doing is doing the work, preparing the problems, presenting them to the brain, giving it that introduction so that it'll start chewing on those problems, and then take your rest. That's not scrolling on social media, watching other videos, things like that, because that's new information that your brain has to process. We need to be in true rest to be incubating, and that's either napping or doing a mindless activity like chores or walking or things like that, where our brain can have the bandwidth to incubate those problems so that we get an illumination and a breakthrough. So good luck with that for this week. Thanks so much for watching this live Monday Music Motivation, and I will see you next Monday for the next one. Have a great week of practice, everybody, and I hope that you have a great time with some awesome illuminations this week to get that creative process rolling and get a lot out of your practice for this week. So have a great week, everybody, and I will see you for the next live Monday Music Motivation. Bye.